Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Sports Illustrated beat writer covering the Las Vegas Raiders. And this guy next to me is my good friend and our assistant beat writer doing a terrific job for us, the great Zeke TRE'VON. Zeke, OTAs, finally, we're past the combine. We're past so much of what goes on in the draft. Rookie mini camp is over. Finally, OTA season is here. We get into some mandatory mini camps later next month. We got so much good stuff going on. It's exciting. If you're a Raider fan, right, you're halfway through. Technically, you're halfway through the offseason, but now is when it really begins to pick up speed with OTAs, mandatory minicamp, Costa Mesa. We touched on it last week, but I got a great email and it was directed towards you. Ready?
Okay.
Zeke, how can you say Costa Mesa is a good place for training camp? I give Hondo the pass because he's not a Raider fan. But you're a lifelong Raider fan and you lived in California. How can you say Costa Mesa is a good place for training camp? And that is from Carlos J.
Yeah. Listen, Carlos, a great question. First and foremost, I'm looking at it more so from the standpoint of, hey, you're changing your scenery first and foremost around the team. There's a lot of new faces, a lot of new aspects to the team, and I just felt like going out to Costa Mesa was just another change that could positively influence the team on the field. But even more so than on the field, for me, it's off the field. I mean, I think we all know there's a ton of Raiders fans in Los Angeles, in California in general, and that they're all, I mean, they would all love to be that close to the Raiders for training camp. So I think it's just going to get the fan base that much more excited than they already were going into this season. And I think that's just going to help the team out on the field.
Zeke, last time we talked, we said the next time we get together, there's the schedule will be out, and I've already done my predictions. I said 10-7. I went through all the games. Let's hear from you. After you looked at this schedule, what do you think the Raiders do?
So I basically came to about the same. I looked at it about 9-8, 10-7. Obviously, some things may go how you expect, and it's the NFL, so not everything is going to go how you expect. But to kind of give you the quick rundown, I basically felt like they're going to redo and replay what they did last season, but they're going to have a couple of those games go their way that didn't go their way last year, i.e., the Vikings game. I'm sorry, that Vikings game is a game I'll never forget because I really just felt like they should have won that game, or they could have won that game at the very least. And I feel like this year they're going to take some of those losses that were close losses last year, and they're going to turn those into wins, at least one or two of the close losses. And I think that's how you're going to get to that 9-8 or that 10-7 number.
Yeah, I had them at worst case scenario 9-8, best 11-6. So I went in the middle, 10-7. All right, I want to dig in a little bit with you because watching how they're going to do this roster is going to be fascinating to me. There is a ton of talent on this roster, a ton of it. You look at tight end, who yesterday we had Michael France on the show, and we looked at, I mean, they've got four NFL tight ends: Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, Harrison Bryant, Cole Fotheringham. I don't. I see a way they could keep four, but I don't think it's plausible. I think they're only going to keep three. Let's talk about running back. Okay. You know Zamir's making it. You know that Alexander Madison's going to make it. And you are with me. You heard the optimism. They think Dylan Labe's going to make it, who does a lot that Amir Abdullah does. Do they keep four, which is a real luxury,
Mhm.
or do they go with three? I'm sorry. I think they'll keep four, but I could see a path where they keep three. What are your thoughts there?
Personally, I think they're going to keep four. I'll tell you why. I think it's because of the presence that Amir Abdullah gives them on special teams. I just think that's irreplaceable. Now, he might not see a whole lot of carries and a whole lot of touches from the backfield, which I still think he will. I still think they're going to use him as a veteran third down back because he still has a lot of value there. But I think they're going to keep all four backs simply because you can't replace what Amir gives you in special teams. So until they fully see what they have from Labe, if they throw him on special teams at all, I think they're going to keep all four running backs.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, literally, I just agree with you 100%. All right, let's switch to offensive line. They could keep nine, they could keep 10. I think the starters are Colton, Dylan, obviously, I think Dylan's the most underrated player on the team and probably one of the most underrated in the NFL. Andre James, Jackson Powers Johnson, JPJ. I expect him to start at right guard. I expect Thayer at right tackle. Andrus Pete, I expect to make the team, obviously. Cody Whitehair, I expect to make the team. Give me some other names because that's 7. Do they keep 9? Do they keep 10? Where do you think they fill in that roster?
I think on the offensive line, similar to running back, I think they're going to keep as many as possible. Last year, they kept more defensive linemen than any other position group on the team. I think that's going to be the case this year for the offensive line. Now, it might not be more than any other position, but I do think they're going to keep as many offensive linemen as possible. I think the way that they've added to that position was obviously not by accident, and they're doing it. They did it so they can have as many people as possible in case of an injury or here and there. So I think they're keeping as many offensive linemen as they possibly can, for sure.
All right, so we know Delmar will make it.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Glaze, so that's 8.
That's 8 right there. Yeah, so I think they're planning on keeping as many as possible because you can't risk not having enough good offensive linemen, especially after all they've gone through to replenish that position group.
I totally agree with you 100%. It's going to be fascinating to me to just watch how this roster develops. I think they're going to keep 10 defensive linemen. I just know how much Antonio Pierce loves the defensive line. And you start looking at that, there's some weapons. All right, so I'm going to ask you, when this season is over, how good is the offense going to be?
How good is the offense going to be? I think it's going to be significantly better than last year, which I'm not sure, how much that says because last year, they had difficulty all last season on offense. But I think it's good enough to get them to the playoffs. I really do. I think last year had the offense been marginally better, they probably would have gone to the playoffs. And the offense just held them back a lot last year. So I think a lot of those guys on the offense do not want to be the reason that things are not going well for a second year in a row. So I think that's going to motivate a lot of them to put their best foot forward. And I think the offense is going to be, again, significantly better than last year. How much better? I think it all kind of depends on Getsy and the offensive line.
All right. Now, let's talk about that because I think you just made a brilliant point. If they just beat the Vikings, which would have taken a touchdown, they're in the playoffs. And no OTAs, no mini camps, no rookie camps, no training camps, no trade deadline. Uh, at the end of the year, is the story going to be Aidan O'Connell started the year the starter and kept his job? Is it going to be Gardner Minshew stole Aidan O'Connell's job? Or is it going to be both quarterbacks fail, Raiders looking for a quarterback? Of the 3 storylines, what's the storyline?
Listen, I'm going to roll with Aidan. I'm going to roll with Aidan. And the reason I'll tell you that is this, and this is barring some kind of injury or something going, something that we just don't see happening. What we saw from Aidan last year when he was thrown into that situation, I don't think I don't think a lot of veteran quarterbacks would have done as well in that situation, and he did very well as a rookie. I think he has the heart to go and win this competition. I really do. I think as quiet as he is, as unassuming as he looks and comes across, I think deep down Aidan is a dog. I do. I think he has it in him, and I think he wants to show everyone. So I think he sees all the talk in terms of the offseason talk about go get a quarterback, get a quarterback, and I think deep down, I think he's upset, and I think he's going to use this season to show that he's a starting quarterback in the NFL.
You're gonna laugh at this. I've had people say you're only defending Aidan because he's a Christian. You're only defending Aidan because he's white. I don't give a rat's rear if your quarterback is Christian, atheist, Muslim, Buddhist, black, white, pink, brown, whatever color you want to. Just win, baby. That's
Just go
the
play the
only
game.
thing that matters. And the thing is you and I are in the building. They really do believe in him,
Yeah.
and I just think it's hilarious.
The team believes in him, right? And what I think a lot of people forget is what he did for the team, right? Because let's be honest, when they had Jimmy, right, last season, and between Jimmy's injuries and just bad play, the team did not believe, right? So when the first thing would go wrong in a game and Jimmy was starting a quarterback, the whole team would just look and say, here we go again, right? And the next thing you know, it's 4 quarters of just bad football, right? I think with Aidan, those guys, if something went wrong, they looked at it 2 ways. A, we can get out of this situation. We're good enough. B, we are going to be the reason that we can get this team out of this situation. And I think that alone, again, like we say, Aidan was in the trenches, right? I think that's part of the reason that AP likes him so much. They were put in a tough situation together, and they both did well. And I think that's valuable, and I think it's going to carry over to this season.
All right. I tell you what, I can't argue with you. Now, I got to tell you this. So Zeke and I were walking out of the locker room one day, and Aiden is, and I think Zeke will agree with you, just salt of the earth. Great kid. Great kid. And we're walking out and whatever. He is the most unassuming NFL quarterback I've ever met. And he's not chiseled granite. He's not super tall and huge. He looks like a guy that if you walked into the Chevrolet store to have your car worked on, he could be the guy, the service writer. And I don't mean that as a slam. He's very unassuming. I watched him pick up trash in the locker room. I watched him pick up a guy next to him who dropped a towel and he picks it up. He is the most unassuming NFL quarterback I have ever been around. That guy is so humble. His teammates love him. Zeke, we're not making this up.
No, no, no. And the thing is again, obviously, when you're in the locker room week by week by week, you kind of look and see, okay, is this person or are these players acting right? Are they just doing this because they won last week or they lost last week? Or are they going to change up over the time of the season? And Aiden just never did. It didn't matter how well he played or didn't play on Sunday. He still came back the same guy, very unassuming. You'd walk past Aiden, and honestly, you would not think he was a starting quarterback. Just off of, like you said, his body makeup, how he looks, really outside of his height, you probably wouldn't guess that he was the quarterback. But again, his teammates love that, and his teammates are drawn to that, and that's part of what makes the team want to go to war for him and go to bat for him. So I think the team likes it, and it makes them rally around him.
So I haven't had a chance to ask Aiden about this. I'm going to uh hopefully today. But anyways, um I got this thing from a fan. They're like, hey, I was at a Walmart and saw this guy who's like a doppelganger for Aiden O'Connell. He goes, clearly it wasn't him, but oh my God. He goes, it looked just like him, right? So the guy sends me this picture. It was Aiden, but the guy just did not think. He goes, is it? He goes, you got to show this to Aiden O'Connell. This guy's like the closest to Aiden O'Connell you'll ever find.
You're like, no, that
It
is
was
Aiden
a
O'Connell.
I mean, he's the guy though that you would run into at Walmart and say, "Boy,
At
you
Walmart.
look like the Raiders quarterback."
Listen, and furthermore, he's the kind of guy that will play it off as if he was not the Raiders quarterback. Like if you didn't know for sure, he'd be like, "Yeah, I do look like him." People tell me that all the time, and you would just never know it was Aiden O'Connell. So that's how low key he is, how down to earth he is.
All right, now let's talk about him because a lot of people, Aiden doesn't care. It doesn't bother him that people have overlooked him. That's what they've done his whole career. They overlooked him in high school. They overlooked him in college. That's okay with him. I think that helps him that he doesn't take himself too seriously. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, imagine if Aiden had a different demeanor and they traveled up to Kansas City last year and won a game without him completing a pass in the first quarter, right? If he took himself too seriously, I don't think they would have won that game, right? After he started, throwing some of those incomplete passes, a quarterback that takes themselves too seriously probably would have gotten their head a little bit and found a way to lose that game. So you're 100% right. I think the fact that he's so just kind of down to earth, the fact that he just basically does not take himself all that seriously, it takes some of the pressure off of him, right? He's going to have enough pressure on him from the outside world. He doesn't need to put any more of it on his own shoulders, and I think that helps him out a lot.
So there was a national writer who wrote a very critical article about Aiden. So I know the guy. I call him. I said, I'm just curious. I like you. I know you. How do you write this? Because I'm in the building. And everything you just wrote, I know inside the building, they disagree with you. And they're the football experts. And I'm just curious. I'm not criticizing you, and I'm not even naming them here. I just said, tell me how you come to that. Oh, I know football. I said, okay. Do you think Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce don't? Well, if they think he's the guy, they don't know football. Okay. Zeke, there's nothing you could say to that. I mean, it is so flabbergasting to me. I've got an article coming next week about the disrespect of Aidan O'Connell. And you and I aren't heralding him as the next Ken Stabler. We don't know, but we haven't seen enough to say he isn't.
I think this kind of goes back to what we just got through talking about a little bit in terms of Aidan and his demeanor and the fact that he doesn't give that superstar vibe. And I think in terms of the national media, just because I'm right there with you, Hondo, I've been seeing some stuff and I'm like, what am I reading? Right. And when I think like that, I'm already taking into account my own biases. Right. I understand that, hey, you know what? Maybe I am a little bit biased because I'm in the locker room every day. And I'm still surprised at the disrespect that I'm hearing from Aidan. And sometimes it's not even just disrespect, it's just blatant overlooking. It's almost as if people kind of dissect the Raiders and either they forget that Aidan's not there or they just don't care that he's there. They don't feel like it's kind of weird. But again, I think he thrives off of that. I think he thrives off of people just doubting him. Like you said, he's been doubted his whole life. And after a while, when you've been doubted your whole life and you've continually proven people wrong, it's normal for you, right? I think for Aidan, he might be a little bit more uncomfortable if people were believing in him overly. So I think he's so used to being doubted that it's nothing for him. And I think he looks forward to it. So, but yes, I am very surprised in terms of what the national media has been, kind of saying in terms of Aidan. And I think he's ready to prove some people wrong.
It's going to be interesting for me. All right, I want to switch directions. I'm going to name some names. I want you to tell me stock up,
Okay.
stock down.
Gotcha. Okay.
You ready for this one?
Yeah.
Thayer Munford.
Stock up. Stock
Trey
up.
Tucker.
Ooh. Let's come back to that one. I feel like Trey Tucker's a push right now in terms of stock up, stock down. I think he might be a push. I don't think he's done or anything has happened that his stock has gone down, but I also don't think if anything, has gone up slightly, and that's because I could see, maybe him benefiting off of Brock Bowers being there, right? Just somebody to kind of take some attention off of him, a little bit of attention off of him. So maybe a stock up a little bit for Trey.
All right. Malcolm Kuntz.
Malcolm Kuntz. Stock up simply because of how big and how important this season is for him. And technically it's huge for him professionally and personally. So I'm going to say stock up. I think he's motivated and I think he's going to come to play. So stock up.
If his first half of the year goes as good as the last half of last year, I think we're going to be talking about an extension for him during the season. All right. Next, Jacorian Bennett.
Who? I'm sorry.
Jacorian Bennett, JB.
Jacorian being Jacorian, technically a little bit of stock down until we see more from him this offseason. That's kind of a TBD, if you will. I think everyone is hopeful for Jacorian, right? But until we see it, I think it's a little bit of stock down just because even with him on the roster, and even after adding to the cornerback position in the draft, we're still saying the Raiders need another cornerback. And I think that's a little bit of a testament of where they feel they are with Jacorian. So a little bit of stock down for him right now.
All right. TRE'VON Moehrig.
TRE'VON, stock up. I think, and again, not by a whole lot. I think until we see these guys out on the field with all the additions, I think that's when we can play this a little bit better. But I think TRE'VON, in terms of his experience and what he's going to mean to this defense and how they've already added the other pieces around. I mean, you think about the pass rush being improved, they've added a cornerback. Mm-hmm. I think, TRE'VON is going to be one of those people that benefit the most off of the moves.
All right. Next week, when Zeke and I are on, it'll be after OTAs. So we'll have a lot to post OTA to talk about. And then I'm going to ask him about four players, that I think nobody's talking about, and they should be. I'm going to get his opinion on those four guys. It's always good to talk ball with you. Can't wait for OTAs later today. You are the one and only, the great Zeke TRE'VON. Now, Zeke, tell them how to find you on social media.
Yes, my X/Twitter profile, the handle is EZ, short for Ezekiel, and then my last name, TRE'VON. That's T as in Tom, R-E-Z as in zebra, V as in Victor, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom. And I also think I'm going to shorten my handle on my X profile here really soon, just to make it easier to find me. So as of right now, it's Easy TRE'VON. Please follow me. I'll follow back.
Let's do Easy Trez SI.
Yes, that's what I'm doing. Let's do it.
All right. He is the great Ezekiel Trezevant. Remember, you can follow me on X at Hondo Carpenter. You can follow me on IG at Hondo Senior SR, just SR, and they don't have to spell senior out. And go to si.com/NFL/Raiders for all of our written content. We do multiple, double digit every day stories on your Raiders, 7 days a week. Get in there, read it, enjoy it. You will not be disappointed. I'm Hondo Carpenter. We'll see you tomorrow. Also, don't forget, keep your eyes up. We're going to have all the videos from OTAs. You're going to love it. We'll see you then.